Hi, I'm Dr. Suli. I'm a men's life coach, and I work with men to support them to be the best version of themselves in life, love, and work. I'm also a director of Men's Prosperity Club CIC and an associate coach at the Lighthouse Charity, which is a charity that support the well-being of those in the construction industry. Nice. And I'm also a single mom of 2 teenage boys. That's why I'm here.
Hi, my name is Ebony. I am a mental health nurse and also senior manager for a CIC called Vision for All, where we promote positive engagement and improve wellbeing through a number of interventions such as sports and mentoring. So aside from being a huge advocate for all things mental health and wellbeing, I am also a mother to 2 boys, 110, 117.
Nice.
Hi, my name is Antonio Henry. I am co-founder and CEO of MADE CIC, which stands for Mentoring Arts and Diverse Education, and father of 3 girls and husband to an amazing wife.
Hi, my name is Malika Selassie. I am one of the company directors of Bless CIC. We work with looked after children and young people in general. Outside of that, I am a mother of 1 22-year-old, and I'm just happy to be here.
Boy.
Thank you so much. Over to you, Michelle. Do your thing.
Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Hi. Oh, I love it. Thanks for responding. So as part of our discussion this afternoon, we're going to be looking at modern matriarchy and what caring responsibilities, decision-making, labour as parents, male and female, some of the hidden labours and responsibilities that we have as parents, but also what those commitments look like to the wider community and how we all engage in wider community settings and what we do there. So my first question to everyone, we're going to popcorn it, so it's going to be first person to jump in. What is your understanding of modern matriarchy? What does it mean to you?
I'll start. Modern matriarchy to me means mothers who feel empowered, confident, and free enough to lead their families and their children, but also whilst respecting the well-being and expression of men in their lives and raising really emotionally healthy, confident boys too.
Okay. I suppose kind of it sounds like quite a feminist statement, what you've just said. So is it a feminist lens, or is it a case of that is just how you identify with yourself as a woman or with women, or what you see in women generally?
I'm a female ally for men, and I claim so because I noticed that there is a lot of vitriol in the media that sort of pitted men and women against each other.
What were some of those things?
Well, like the manosphere, obviously, there's a lot of hate out there that, say that there are strong feminists, and then there are those who are just trad wives. And then there are those men who, the incels out there who get really, they sort of internalize that if they don't get what they want, it's all about the system, or, the system isn't built for them. So I really believe in being a really strong female ally to say that to men, that, not all women are out there to get you. There are women who support you as well, who really value your well-being. We know how hard it is for men. It's hard for women as well. But women are really, really good at supporting each other and vocalizing their struggles, whereas men are not, and they've been conditioned not to be.
Yeah.
And raising 2 boys, I don't want this pattern to keep repeating. So this is why I do the work that I do. And I think all people want the same, whatever gender you are. Everyone wants healthy relationship dynamics. Everyone wants to see healthy children and mentally strong and emotionally resilient people. And that has a ripple effect in our community.
Yeah.
Strong leaders, female or male, is a great plus for everyone.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I would say modern matriarchy to me means embodying all the attributes of a strong, powerful woman who's also a mother and leads a home. But just in, obviously the modern part means doing this in 2026. And I feel like it looks a lot different now to how it used to look. There's a lot of other factors that you need to think about. Women have to work harder now than they used to. We've all got jobs and side hustles and taking on additional responsibilities. But I guess it's doing all those things while feeling empowered and enabled, I think.
Okay.
I think modern matriarchy for me means positionality, where we position ourselves and the freedom to position ourselves wherever we see fit.
Yeah.
I think that matriarchy is on a spectrum, so you can be a mother, but you can be somebody that doesn't have any children but can still be mothering, and it's encompassing all of that without having to answer to anybody. It really means, for me, positioning myself as a matriarch alongside a benevolent patriarch. So somebody who takes patriarchy seriously but not oppressively, and what that looks like, and also holding space for men to unpack, masculinity, and, just what Celie was talking about, the conditioning of not being emotionally available for each other, and what that looks like from a female perspective of stepping back and allowing men to have that space to do that for themselves, but playing a supportive role. I think the aspect of leading is convoluted, you know what I mean, and is quite pressurizing as well. So, women that don't want to lead don't have to. You get me? Women that want to allow men to lead, and what does that actually look like? And that, the supposed gender war that we're going through at the moment, or, that gap between us not being on the same page, coming together and asking each other, what does that actually look like in real terms? But, having implications for the wider society as well. That was a lot, sorry.
Loved it.
I love that.
Yeah, for myself.
So before we ask Antonio, we've already started to allude the importance within the 21st century and 2026 of the importance of that shared emotional literacy within modern matriarchy. How does that, just from the women's perspective, I'm coming to you, Antonio, so we're not singling him out. How does that look for you as a female, as a modern matriarchy today? What does that emotional literacy look and feel like? There's a method in my madness.
So what does emotional literacy look like for me as a mother?
Yeah.
For me, that means modeling emotional resilience for my children. So it's not just telling them, you can talk to me. It's actually creating a safe space for them to feel they can be heard and listened to and not judged. I think that's really important. And I see it in the men's wellbeing space as well. You can tell men, you can talk, like you just go see a therapist, but like if they don't feel like they have a safe space to talk, they're not going to. Because, and it's the same in relationships as well. You can say to a man, like, just talk to your partner, lean on your partner when you need support. But if you then are vulnerable, which takes a lot of courage from men to then express how they're feeling. I mean, I watched Blue Therapy. Is anyone else watching Blue Therapy? Amazing. And the guy who's like, obviously feels a lot of shame because he lost his job. He was made redundant. He didn't feel able to go to his wife to speak about it. But I mean, I've only one episode in. The therapist was obviously trying to get them to talk to each other. And the wife is very much like, I can't believe you didn't tell me. And it's all about like he didn't tell her. But I'm looking at it thinking like clearly he feels a lot of shame about it, because for him, he's been conditioned to believe that he has to be the breadwinner, the provider. And he felt so shameful about losing his job that he wasn't able to speak to his wife. He wasn't able to speak to anyone. It wasn't anything about her personally. So I think it's about creating a safe space, not being judgmental. And so modeling that for your children. I apologize to my children when I have done something wrong, if I've reacted in a way that I'm not proud of, but we're all human and we can actually say, I'm sorry, Mummy was in a bad mood. I was really stressed at work. I had a meeting in like 5 minutes and then you came to ask me something and I shouldn't have reacted that way, but I apologize. And now they're mirroring that for me. So whenever they go off in a huff, my 12-year-old yesterday had a massive strop because he wanted to game instead of go walk for 2 hours around Kingsbury Water Park. So he had his drop. He was like, we had a standoff in the car. He was like, I'm not getting out the car. And I was like, I'm just going to walk Choco, the dog, for like 15 minutes. You just take a break, come back. And then eventually my 16-year-old nephew arrived and said, okay, let's go for a walk. Obviously, because he's 16, he looks up to him. He was like, okay, I'm getting out the car because my cousins told me to. But then later on in the evening, he said, actually, I quite enjoyed our walk. So, Mom, I'm sorry that I behaved that way earlier and I was a bit mean to you.
Yeah.
I said, that's okay, Theo. I'm glad you enjoyed your walk in the end. And I'm glad you came with us. It was about spending quality time together. So, long and short of it is model the behaviour.
Modelling behaviour, I find modelling behaviour is important and it does work with children. When you were speaking, I was like, do you know what? Actually, I parent a little bit different. So I might do a little bit of an explanation, but actually I'm mum. And what I said is what I said. And you don't have to like it, but I want you to respect me in that. And I think in the 21st century, in the 2026, I sometimes find, especially when I'm working in community spaces or when I'm with my nieces or my nephews, we get so kind of wanting to create those safe spaces that we sometimes forget that it's not always nice outside. And they're going to face people that are actually quite challenging. And I've got 2 boys as well, 12, 13 and 11. And I'm kind of like always like, I want them to be prepared for that when they step outside and being a single and a mother. I'm going to come to that discussion because I'm single and a mother. It's because how do I ensure that they have those spaces where they can learn some of those kind of defense mechanisms or how to challenge people appropriately or when to say no and when to say yes. How I start that sort of stuff at home. Have you got any more?
No.
You go in? You go in?
No.
Okay. So, Antonio.
I think mine's is quite hard because my wife's quite strong. So because of that, our dynamic in the home is very much like depends on the role, depends on the day.
Can you break down strong for me?
As in like, let's talk masculine and feminine. People will say that my wife has a lot of masculine characteristics.
Okay.
And technically, traditionally, I probably present more feminine characteristics.
Okay.
But also it depends on the day.
Yeah.
Because as I said, the problem is with society, a lot of the time, I'll just keep it as it is. Strong women are kind of put down and more feminine men or more men that speak about their emotions and more emotionally literate are kind of seen as being feminine. So then it's not really a masculine trait because masculine is more like defensive, anger, strength. But in a modern day, both of us lead the home, but we have a collaborative approach that actually we discuss what works for our family, usually, rather than you lead or I lead or the male leads or the wife leads. We both lead collectively.
Right. So are you saying modern matriarchy is a collective approach?
In my opinion.
In your opinion, as opposed to...
Because I feel like, and it also varies on your household and how it works. But from what I've found, what works within our household, it's the collective approach where actually your voice and my voice matters.
Yeah.
So actually how we do this collectively, we have to speak, we have to communicate regularly to see what works for both of us moving forward for our family.
How does that translate for you in community spaces?
It's sometimes very challenging because males already have a stigma and already have a persona that they work with on a day-to-day basis. So then when they, especially with Caribbean and African families, you're going against culture.
Yeah.
On top of that, our kids then feel the impact of that in the nicest way.
Yeah.
Where for a lot of our community, let's keep it real, a lot of them are single mothers. And when the father is there, the father...
Define single mother.
Hold me under the bus. As in, for a lot of the time, and let's keep it real, as a male, for a lot of the males that I know, it is very much like they can be present, they might come on a weekend, they might see their child on a weekend, but they don't understand the day-to-day of what a mother does throughout the week.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And for a father, you might turn around and say, actually, yeah, I'm there for my child, I'm there every week, I'm there. But you don't see what bedtime looks like, you don't see what the week looks like, you don't see the school runs. But for a mother, she sees a lot of it, and the males sometimes don't understand that.
Okay,
Yeah.
I hear that. Shall we do a bit of a different? Can I ask, like, what is the statuses? Or who on the panel is single parenting and who is co-parenting, or
Single parent / co-parenting. Sometimes it doesn't feel like co-parenting, but yeah.
you work with it?
Mm.
I hear you, but
Yeah.
I hear you.
Yeah, I'm sort of single parent, co-parent. My co-parent is actually really good. My children, I was going to say lucky, but then why lucky?
Where's the ballet?
No, their father's always been a really good father to them. So we separated when the children were 3 and 6,
Okay.
and he's seen them every weekend or every other weekend, like no questions. They have never felt any insecurity or instability, and so he's always been a very good co-parent. I get the sense of, like, sometimes it feels a bit detached because he lives more than 100 miles away, so he's a good 2.5-hour drive away. So props to him, though. He drives from Southampton up to Sutton Coldfield every Friday, takes the boys all the way back down again, like every other weekend, and he takes them on holidays and stuff. So it's just, he doesn't see, again, like in the week, the
Reality.
the realities of
Emotion, yeah.
parenting. He just gets the fun times with them, the holidays. But yeah, that's my situation.
I've never raised her singly, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I am fortunate to have a wonderful village. I do have that. So where her dad chose to be counterproductive when she was 13, my dad stepped in, my brother stepped in, other men in my life stepped in and were able to fulfill that role for her. What I've realized now at 22 is that level of abandonment or rejection has a negative impact psychologically. So regardless of what happens, I could turn around and say that my experience was okay because financially they stepped up for me, XYZ. But for her, it's different. I can't relate to that because I come from a 2-parent family and my parents have been together. I'm 45. They've been together for about 51 years, married for how long? So that relationship between her, when she's coming to me with certain things, I can't relate because I have a dad, you get what I mean? That's always been there for me. And I think this kind of leans into the complexity of what it is to be a single mother. You get what I mean? I could be in a relationship, which means I'm not single, but that man is not the father of my children or my child, and therefore I am co-parenting. So I think the labels that we give each other, you get what I mean, are extremely problematic. You get me? Life is nuanced, it's complicated. So asking somebody, are you a single mother straight off the bat? Well, that's not going to tell you anything about me at all. Do you get what I mean? We have to have those conversations. And I think, again, the whole masculine, feminine thing is a major issue. I probably would be called masculine in a lot of areas of my life because I don't stand for certain things. I make it very clear that this is what was going to happen. And if you don't like it, then I've got no problem. You go, because I'm staying here. Do you get what I mean? But at the same time, I can be soft.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can be fluid, I can flow. Do you get what I mean? Do we have the opportunity to do that when being assertive in the workplace or, standing on business means that I am all, you've already labeled me a certain type of way. So you never get to see what's behind all of that. And I think equally for men who present as feminine, I don't even know what that means because I've got a dad that has no problem giving me a hug. I have no understanding of what, to me, that's what it is to be a real man, is to encompass both energies, knowing which one you use at any given opportunity. Do you get what I mean? There are certain areas where I'll more than likely go to my dad than I would go to my mom. Do you get what I mean? Because he has that level of understanding. Do you get what I mean? So I think labels are a problem, and not being willing to look beyond those labels tells me something more about who you are and how your mind works than anything else. Yeah.
Yeah. I can concur with that. I think what's important is having a community outside of having a partner. Whether you're with a partner or not, I think the community element of raising children is tremendously important.
Absolutely.
And I find for myself, it's knowing that my community are there, but actually when I go home and I shut my door at night and it's just me and the kids, and I've still got to make all the decisions, and I've still got to decide who they should go around, or what time I should be going to bed, or how we're getting up for school in the morning, or how we're getting to football, and how we're doing coding, and it's all those decisions that you make, I find, that we make in our heads and by ourselves as single parents, or as somebody that's single with children. That can be challenging when you're raising children, especially mums. I find mums raising boys. I hear a lot of parents say having daughters is really hard. But I've actually found having a daughter absolutely wonderful. She's 19, and girls come with their challenges. But I've actually found having a daughter absolutely amazing. And what I'm actually finding is a little bit more challenging is navigating some of the nuances of puberty with boys.
Yeah.
And then having conversations with my dad and my brothers and some of my close friends, because their father's not around, and ensuring that they feel confident and comfortable in who they can go and have those conversations with as well.
I think for me, that conversation, speaking to men as they grow older and they transition through adolescence and they come into that level of childhood possible trauma, you know what I mean? Because again, if daddy's there but he's not the best, you get me, that breeds a different conversation.
Agreed.
But you know, puberty and not being out, having that father figure to relate. I have heard grown men say, do you know how embarrassing it was to have to go to my mum and ask those types of questions? And I think as a mother, I'm really starting to understand how important, you know, 0 to 14 and the building blocks of, you know what I mean, that time as childhood. It's imperative because it sets the blueprint and the foundation for absolutely everything moving forward. I don't think as a society we take it seriously enough.
Agreed.
And I don't think I think mothers have got so much other things to do that we kind of miss it. Do you get what I mean? And that's why it takes two. Do you get what I mean? If that other person was there, they would be catching some of the things that you would have missing, and vice versa.
Let me jump in on that, because I think I've had both experiences where obviously my oldest daughter is from outside the home and my two youngest from inside the home. And I can honestly say as a father, I didn't realize even what being a dad was until I had my youngest too. Because as I said, you might show up on the weekend or you might show up whenever, but you actually don't experience everything. Now, there's a very big difference when my daughter, my youngest two, will come to me end of the day and debrief their day, where I've had to now implement a lot of the things that I do with my youngest, with my oldest, but keeping it 100% because of the complexities of relationships, having a child at a young age and not realizing the impact of being a father, not impacting the impact that will have on a child. You don't realize actually how much that 0 to 14 is extremely impactful for a young person.
Yeah.
And for our community. That's where you find that a lot of the young people are struggling because actually, even though you might think not the father not being around and we can manage it and all these different things that we tell ourselves, the child still needs its father.
Yeah.
Facts.
In terms of modernizing matriarchy, what is really important for me as a mother is being able to have time for myself. So I made the conscious decision to build my life around the kids. And because I work so heavily in community spaces and I lecture at BCU, shout out to BCU students, I am trying to educate them on the importance of actually you do so much for others. Where are you getting your downtime? Where are you taking time out to say, actually, on a Friday afternoon or on a Saturday morning, or I'm going to go to the gym, or I'm going to go for that walk in the park? And where are you finding time to ensure that actually your mental health and your well-being is effective for raising your children and also for looking after and being around others in community? Because if you don't look after yourself, you cannot look after anybody else. So I made a very conscious decision to build my life around the kids so I could do pick up and drop off, so I could be at football games. I remember growing up and nobody ever came to my netball matches because everybody was working. So I've made the conscious decision to be there for the activities that they're participating in and be there at night time when they want to have those conversations, because sometimes children don't necessarily always want to have the conversation when you want to have the conversation. They want to have the conversation when they're ready, and it's really nice and important to have
Just when you just had your hot chocolate
and you're ready to go to bed, and you're getting cozy.
Ready to go to sleep.
They're ready to chat there.
They're on their own time, and I think what I learned from my mum is that she made time for herself. Yeah, so I always saw her dulling herself up and going out and all the rest of it. And you know what I mean? There's a little bit of parentification, because then, you know, those kind of motherly duties fell on me as the oldest. Yeah. But as I've grown older now, I understand why that was so important. Do you get what I mean? And I think both parents need to have downtime, and both parents need to, but if you're the only person that's doing the work, it's even more important for you, because you're taking on somebody else's fair share of the job. Do you get what I mean? And it's about teaching your children that outside of my role as mum, I'm a human being as well. Do you get what I mean? From a positive point of view, not a negative point of view. So, you know, they'll see you crash out and, you know what I mean? But you've also got to let them know that, you know, mum needs that time for mum to get me to de-stress. And if I don't get that time, 9 times out of 10, that's where the crash out happens. Do you get what I mean? So those building blocks of conversations. And I just think now, because we can't beat our children anymore. You have to find a different way. What we can't. You were able, in the 70s and the 80s, you were able to instill fear in a different way, hoping that it would turn into respect. We can't do that anymore, and rightly so. So now you're having to find language and different ways of raising your children, which will build emotionally resilient and intelligent, you know what I mean, human beings, which we don't have at this moment in time, because translating that trauma of, you know what I mean, doing something and always getting beaten for it, or, you know what I mean, corporal punishment. You know, we used to beat children in school. Yeah. Do you get what I mean? So you could get beat at school for doing something and then go home and then get beat. You get what I mean? I work in care, so I understand what that looks like from a psychological and, you know what I mean, emotional development, and what people pleasing and fawning and all that kind of thing looks like. And we want to eradicate that. So we have to find a different way of communicating with our children. And for me, it's just being open and honest.
Yeah. I think mom guilt, even just parent guilt, is a real thing. But I think I've consciously made an effort recently over the last few years to just not feel guilty about, you know, okay, so we haven't done anything this weekend. Like, it's okay. Like, we can just chill in the house this weekend. We don't have to go anywhere. We don't always have to be doing stuff. Yeah, I just think we need to be a bit easier on ourselves and stop setting the bar so high, because we are good parents at the end of the day, I think.
You going to say something?
I was just going to say that I completely agree. And the social media doesn't help when you see all those family accounts of like the perfect family and all the ad sponsorships of, you know, promoting days out and things like that. As a single parent, you have the financial constraints. You can't take your kids for a day out all the time because it's bloody expensive.
It's a day out.
And also you get so used to
financially.
You get so used to the kids can just get so used to being entertained all the time. They don't get given the space to actually get bored and be creative.
Yeah,
and that's
so
important.
You know, that is important, and we need to give them the space and the time to just go and do their own thing, find their own creativity, not be entertained all the time.
Even when I was younger, it was just literally got dropped to Nan's and that was it. It was like 4 channels on the TV. There was nothing to do, but we had fun. There was things, we found things to do. And I think kids these days was, I'm bored. So find something to do.
Literally. And they've got, I know with the boys, my boys have got bikes. I'm always like, go out on a bike ride. And when they've done it,
they enjoyed it.
They've really had a really good time. But I think it's that case of, whereas we didn't necessarily need someone to say, go and do it.
Yeah,
we have to be able to say, well, have you tried this particular activity, or have you got some friends you could go and knock on for and spend some time outside? And what does being in the garden look like? And why have you got a football going and several footballs and all these things going on and you're not using them? I think that's one of the biggest differences, that we now have to encourage young people to take up activities, and I help them identify what outside of the internet
phone
looks like.
It's like literally one of the worst things I think as an adult, I'm looking back on and realizing that, you know what I mean, that environment, that online environment is probably one of the the most detrimental things we could have done to our children. I get why we've done it. I understand, you know what I mean, I understand all of that, but I think we have to start being really honest about what that's actually done to, you know what I mean, understanding what play looks like. You know what I mean, after COVID, we took a bunch of children to a park, and 20, 30 years ago, it's an open space. I'm gone. Do you get what I mean? And I'm, you know what I mean, and I've got nothing to play with but myself and other people. Do you get what I mean? Trees, had no idea.
Yeah.
Like literally no idea.
I think, can we be real? Because I think a lot of the time these things are suggested, but a lot of the time we're coming home from work tired, exhausted, and sometimes you don't have the capacity to do that. And I think this is where it's hard, because we've now got to get into the discipline, even for ourselves, to take ourselves out of the environment and do things for ourselves and our kids that actually are impactful. So for example, and I laughed about it because obviously the week before I took my kids out for a walk to go feed the ducks. My wife, I think it was Friday evening, she was in the house and it was probably like 7:30 and it was getting dark, and she was just like, kids, get the torches, we're going out. And I was like, I wouldn't do that. But I respected her, because she'll say, actually, regardless of whatever's going on, I'm going to put something in that we can all do to just enjoy the moment. And I really respected her for it. But then me understanding it's a Friday evening, she's already had a busy week. She could have just sent them to bed. But she chose to do something for herself and for the kids, which actually was way more beneficial. Now, Monday, this evening, kids are like, so we're going for the ducks. I'm like, again? But we've got to be in a place where we do this, and we've got to be intentional in our actions.
Yeah.
How do you think structures and systems either help or hinder parenting?
More context, please.
Okay. So let's start with like the education system. How do you think the education system hinders or helps
Okay.
as a structure?
It doesn't help it, because I know when we look at the system and we go through when we go to phone a parent's, a young person's parent, majority of the time, I'll probably say about 95% is always mother first. And with that, all the burden always comes onto the mother, if that makes sense. So even as a father, sometimes you question yourself. Sometimes you're actually wondering, well, why don't the school phone you? But sometimes you don't even have a clue, because the school don't even make contact with you. And that's just the school alone, where a lot of the responsibility is always left with the mother. Where how can we, so for example, what we do, we always try to phone the father first, so he's always included if something happens, and both parents know. So at least that way, especially if it's a two-parent home and they're not together, the father has some insight in what's happening with their child, so they can play a part in what's going on with it.
Nice.
I like that.
I think it's important that, I've not actually necessarily thought about, because I'm a mother that gets the phone calls, and even when I was with my children's dad, I was still the person that got the phone calls, and I would call him and we'd have the conversation that way. But actually having that balance of calling the father first is important. I think it is important. It's a good point.
I think they'd get away with less as well if they called the dad.
Possibly behave more at school.
Yeah, I think so.
Can I ask you, why did you say that?
Because I'm a very laid back parent, I'll be honest, and their dad is a bit more firmer than me. So I think obviously they'll call me and I might not implement consequences, or I may not be as forthright. Whereas if they call dad, you know, you're going to sit down, you're going to have a chat. There might be consequences for your behaviour, whereas I'm quite laid back. So I think if they do call the dad, it's a different approach, and it's good for dad to step in and take the lead with discipline and things like that.
So can I ask you a question? What if dad was the laid back one?
Good question. I don't know. I don't know.
Because why I asked that is because it feels like, and this is what I've had a lot of conversations around males, is where fathers are now looked at the disciplinary one.
Yeah.
Where in reality, it can be both. But because not in all contexts, but in a lot of contexts, a lot of the time, dads are called to step in and discipline the child. But in reality, it's changed now.
Yeah.
Or can I add my viewpoint? Because their dad is like over 100 miles away, he's actually quite a laid back guy. So he isn't the one who does the disciplining. I'm the one who does the disciplining and the consequences. So that's an interesting dynamic. And actually, I encourage the school to give him a call as well. They call me all the time. But if I'm busy and I'm, or he's in a meeting, I'm like, well, can you call the dad as well? Because we're not in the same household. And it would be really helpful for me if you then also share this information with their father. So sometimes you have to be the one to communicate to the school. Have you actually thought about this? You need to call the dad as well. But we actually have, because we co-parent well now, we now have a system where like every time it's parents' evening, I'm busy running a business. He has a 9-to-5 job. I say, can you book all the parents' evening appointments school? So that's his job now. So sometimes we as mothers, it's our responsibility to also ask for help when we need it.
Yeah,
so
true.
If it's easier for us,
Sure.
like we don't have to be a martyr. We don't have to martyr ourselves and say, I'm going to do it because I'm with the kids more. We can hand over some tasks and responsibilities to the dad as well.
So I'm going to be real now and say something that my wife said to me. And I think it's something that I had to reflect on as a father. It's because their worry was, regardless of if I give you, I still got to worry about it getting done. And that then was, even though the pressure was off her, because she's been doing it for so long, there's still that back of my mind that, is it done? Is it this? Is it that? Is it this? So then how do you then manage that or navigate that as a mother?
Well, I think that's really interesting because I was thinking, coming onto this panel, like we as mothers and women also have to create the space for the men and the fathers to step up and take responsibility. If we're always monitoring if they're doing the right job or having a go at them, if they've made the effort but they haven't done it the way you want to, and then having a go at them, they're obviously not going to want to step up and take that responsibility. So it's our job as women as well to be able to learn to receive the help and to be able to say, it's good enough. It's not perfect. It's not to my how I would do it, but it's still okay because they made the effort to get it done. And you have to recognize what's good enough.
Yeah.
How the kids say, did the job get done?
Yes.
Then that's fine.
And I think there's perfectionism. What's going to happen if it doesn't happen? Do you get what I mean? If the appointment doesn't get booked today, you can book it tomorrow. Do you get what I mean? I think there's this overwhelming need to get it right all of the time. And if you just allow yourself to fail forward, do you get what I mean? Get it wrong. Get me what is it? What can be born out of that mistake? Do you get what I mean? If you're constantly, I think for me, it's the level of stress that anxiety / depression and worrying actually does to the body. Do you get what I mean? Why we're seeing a lot of the older generation not reaching where they used to because they're taking on board all of these things and there's nowhere for it to go either. Do you get what I mean? We're not having those open and honest discussions and we're just constantly worrying about things that ultimately don't necessarily need to be worried about at that level. It's gonna do what it does anyway. Do you get what I mean? So just relax. Do you get what I mean? That's what I learned. Like if it doesn't get done today, it will get done tomorrow. And who's watching me anyway? You think people care? People don't care. People have got their own things going on. Do you get what I mean? So stop thinking that everybody is holding you to this level. It's you. You're holding yourself to a level and you're actually putting a lot of the pressure on yourself, thinking that everybody else is holding you to that same level and they're worried about their own stuff as well. And that's why community is important, because when you get in a space with women and you just say, oh God, I was worrying about, and it was like, so was I, but it's not that serious. It's not that deep. I did this, and that's how you come up with solutions and ways forward, which is what we kind of do
At the lounge.
at the lounge. Yeah.
All the time. Okay, so I want to stay on that structure, the question. In terms of, because there's lots of different structures, family structures, community structures on the panel at the moment. So in terms of how your structures show up for you, whether that be in the education system, whether that be at home, whether that be at work, how do you kind of maintain your matriarchal performance or way of being throughout these structures to enable you to be the best parents for your children and also for other children and family members that you're engaging with and interacting with, raising, nurturing, loving on, so on, and everything, and all the rest?
I think for me, working in care, I've seen men in particular take on that mothering role. You have to do certain things every single day, regardless of whether there's, a woman on staff, and so it gives children in care a different perspective of what the gender roles are. However, I would say that there is also a lot of policy and procedure of central government, local authority that is detrimental to the well-being of children, full stop, regardless of who's driving the boat.
Yeah.
I'm very passionate about unpacking the educational system, just unpacking absolutely everything, do you know what I mean? And having a really good look at what works from a position of impact and outcome of actions, do you know what I mean? Does this action work? What is the impact and the outcome of this action? And is it beneficial for everybody? If it's not beneficial for man, woman and child, then it's not working. But I think that what happens is as long as it's working for somebody at that particular moment in time, so governments are getting children in school, not necessarily caring whether these children are being taught the way that they receive information, it's a completely different way of but we're still teaching English, science and maths like there was when we was in 1997. It doesn't work.
And the way I learn isn't the way that young people and children are learning now.
Yeah.
So when they come home with stuff, or when I'm working with children or young people on a particular topic or a particular project, I'm just like, I don't know.
Phonics, when phonics came out, I was like, what is this? I have no relation.
I actually enjoyed phonics.
But the thing is, I wasn't raised on phonics.
Yeah.
You get what I mean? So when they're saying I'm saying no, it's here. You get what I mean? That's what we're trying to. That level of. We have to unlearn a lot of the things that we've been taught in order to make space for new ways of doing things. And I think intergenerationally, we have to understand that this generation are going to be teaching us a lot because they're more advanced in certain things than we were. Do you get what I mean? This is a technological generation. They're up to speed on so many things and they can grasp things so much better. So that level of authority that we used to have, we don't have anymore because we're almost at the mercy of AI and the things that they can do that you wouldn't dream of doing.
We're sharing space.
We're sharing space now. So I think for me, structures that need to be looked at is absolutely everything, but not everyone can look at every.
Yeah.
You get me? You pick one. Do you know what I mean? That you're passionate about, and you unpack it from your point of view, and you have conversations. But ultimately, before I finish, that we're the adults. You know what I mean? We are creating an environment for young people and young children, do you get what I mean? Through action and non-action. If you're not voting, if you don't know what the policies and procedures are that, affecting your own individual children, how effective of a parent are you being outside of making sure that they've got food in their belly, clothes on their back and a roof over their head? It's more than that now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, our children are going out and intermingling with each other in ways that we didn't. So they've got friends from Japan, they've influenced from different cultures and stuff like that. So their mind is a lot broader than ours was, but you're asking them to do this in these environments, which can be extremely oppressive. So it's, the toing and flowing and being able to be malleable in your parenting and understanding that you're still learning and letting them know that I'm still learning at the same time as you.
Anybody else got anything they want to add?
In terms of structure, I would just say my big thing is just making time for myself. I've prioritized it a lot over the last couple of years, simply because I just found myself showing up so much for other people, especially my kids as well, just for other people, and reaching burnout. And then you just reach burnout and you crash, and then you just feel a bit lost, and then you feel a bit down for a little bit. But I want to not reach burnout. I want to be able to take time, even if it's just in my bed doing nothing for a few hours, or going for a walk, or just getting a babysit and being alone for a bit. It really helps. Without that time for yourself, you're just going to continue going and going and going and pouring into everyone else and not yourself. But you need to put yourself first in a lot of situations.
Yeah, well, I totally hear that. I think as I'm anybody who knows me knows that I love my work. I run a community organisation, I have a business and I lecture at BCU, and it's all kind of similarly related in terms of what I do, but I absolutely love it. Yeah. And if I wasn't doing it, I'd probably be a little bit bored. And But in saying that, there is a level of importance in being able to look after myself and make sure that structurally, systematically, the structures don't kind of try and get hold of me and tear me down. And I don't get lost in policy, and I don't get lost in procedure, and I don't get lost in the late nights and the early mornings and phone calls and the different challenges and issues that others are facing, and how I'm feeling that in the moment and the time. I think it's really important that we acknowledge that not only do we get kind of swept away with life by our children, but we can get swept away with life with working and doing for others and ensuring that everybody else is all okay. And then in the end, it's kind of, where are you in that space?
Yeah.
Last question. What is it, do you think, that parents need?
Kind of on the same vein, self-care is really important, and also tying in the structures in the system. I think we need like a weaving of different systems that support us. So whether that structure is using the education system, but obviously being aware of the limitations of that structure, and teaching our kids also to be aware and to critique these structures, I think is also really important.
Yeah, I agree.
You can use those structures to support you, because God, I couldn't homeschool my children. You know,
It's really true.
but then using structures available such as CICs, volunteering organisations, community organisations, your family, extended family, support networks. These are all different types of structures that you can use together to support yourself as a parent. As Ebony has said, you need to be able to give yourself downtime to look after yourself so that you can be the best parent that you can be. And I hit burnout personally as well last year because I was trying to be busy doing all of the things, running my business, working a job as well, being a single parent. And sometimes you really have to hit that rock bottom in order to realize that wasn't working. And actually, happy mum equals happy children. And I realized I was just repeating the cycle of what I'd seen my parents do. My parents would just work themselves to the bone and never gave themselves any time. You know, my younger sister and I have recognized that cycle. We're breaking that cycle by showing our children it's really important to look after yourself, give yourself time. You know, mum's going off to like the gym because I need that time for myself to get myself mentally and physically healthy. But one of our other sister, she's repeating the cycle. Like, she's very much, my identity is a mother and only a mother and a wife. And she doesn't really give herself a lot of time for herself. So, you know, my younger sister and I try and encourage her to give that time for herself.
She might get there, she might not. I think the identity of a mother and a wife is okay if that's what you want and you're happy in that. But are you happy in that? And I think that's the big question that we always have to ensure when we're asking ourselves about the roles that we're playing and the things that we're doing. Am I happy in what I'm doing?
And also recognizing that we're multifaceted. So that's not our only identity.
That's not all. Yeah.
What's your identity outside of being a mother and a wife as well? What's your identity outside of the job that you play at work?
Yeah.
Outside of being a sister and a daughter? Like, who are you as well as a person, as an individual? I think a lot of mothers lose that when they have their children.
Yeah.
And then they get so caught up in the family life that they lose themselves. And fathers do as well. I work with a lot of clients who are men who are seen as just the providers, just the husband, and then they lose a sense of themselves as well because, you know, especially if they lose a job or, you know, who am I outside of that status, that job title, the husband, you know, if they lose a relationship, who am I actually underneath all of that?
Yeah. I hear it.
I think from my perspective is emotional literacy, communication skills, and self-awareness. I think, as you've said, a lot of the times when we get into these positions as wife, as husband, as mother, we then forget that we had a name and things that we done before we got into that position.
Definitely.
But also the other side of it is a lot of the things that we learned along the way, we may have learned it, but that doesn't mean it's the correct way to do it.
Yeah.
And we have to also evolve as humans to then get better, to understand how we can better ourselves, but also better our kids and the future generations. Because like you've said about beating, we was conditioned to believe that beating was the way to discipline our children. But in reality, as we start to get older, we realize that actually it might not be as effective as we made it out to be. And there's different ways how we can do it. But a lot of the time, because we don't know ourselves, and usually it's sad that we actually have to go through serious situations to get to rock bottom, to then learn ourselves, to then redevelop ourselves.
Yeah.
When actually, how do we then just go about our day-to-day by finding out who we are and how we function and what we do and how that then plays out in our lives. And in the communication skills, then it's the element of knowing that, knowing yourself, and being able to communicate that to others around you and communicate your boundaries, your respect, and everything that you value.
Yeah. I like that. I think parents need a big hug. A really, really big hug and a good dose of self-forgiveness. Get me? You don't know what you don't know until we get there. Do you get what I mean? And it's what you do when we get there and how we unlearn negative cultural, you know what I mean, ingrained ways of being. But to allow yourself to feel that you didn't know any better, do you get what I mean? Because a lot of us did it, and as we're transitioning, as we are evolving, you get me, we're going to make mistakes, you get what I mean? And as long as those mistakes, as long as we are learning from those mistakes, I think it's okay. I think it's acceptable for all of us to say that at this moment in time, the old ways of being no longer exist, and we're going through a new normal, and we don't quite know what that looks like yet. And in that, you know, I mean, in that level of self-awareness, self-compassion, grace, and all of that, give that to yourself and give it to other parents. You know what I mean? Say it's okay. You get what I mean? You might have got it wrong last week, but next, you know, we tell children in care all of the time, tomorrow's a brand new day. What you do today, we're not carrying forward until tomorrow. Do you get what I mean? Because how else do we teach them emotional resilience? How else do we teach them bounce back? But I think, you know, earlier on we were talking about role modeling, do you get what I mean? But it's role modeling what it is to have a human experience in all aspects of it, knowing that, you know what I mean, I am still the authority figure because I may know more in this particular area, but there are other areas where I'm learning alongside you. We are walking this journey with our children as opposed to leading them from the, you know, in the way that we used to, and acknowledging that some of the things back in the day just weren't the best way to do things.
It sounds like there's a heavy emphasis on educating ourselves as parents.
I think
in
so.
terms of what is our children and young people are experiencing, what our peers and co-parents are experiencing, and what we're experiencing ourselves. I think there's always that you're never not learning as a parent, and not just as a parent of your own children, but as parents of other people's children's. And I'm a youth work practitioner, and that's what I used to do. And I lecture the subject now, and I will say in lectures that I, as part of my youth work value base and my principles and my philosophies, my motherness is in that. And when I'm working with young people or when I'm teaching my students, there's a mother in there.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that we are able to articulate that actually I can't just put the mother down. She is part of who I am. When I walk, when I talk, when I engage, when I see young people on the street, when I hear something that a young person's experiencing, it's the mother in me that responds, as well as the practitioner, as the professional, the policies, the procedures, the values, and all those other things. But actually, there's a mother in that. And what I've learned is that I need to be able to be that. Like in terms of what I need, sometimes as parents, we don't feel like we get to or can be parents because structures don't always allow us to, and they don't always give us space and permission to parent our children the way that we want to parent them, or the way that we believe our children need parenting, or the way we young people need parenting. And I've got an example like my youngest. He has got such an amazing mind, and he went to school and he fed them he told them that he had freedom of speech and he had rights as a child, and yeah, he's a lot. And I got called in and they were like, well, what are we supposed to do with that, and what are we going to do with this? And I was like, well, actually, as a school, you've got a school way of being. He needs to read it. because what he needs to understand that I'm his mother at home, but actually when he comes to school, there's a set of rules at school and there's a way of being in this particular
100%.
environment that isn't the same as when he's at home, and that's okay. And I find that when I get to be that parent, he gets to be the child that he wants to be. And when we get to be the adults who we are, young people get to be the children that they are, because they've, like you said, they've got the adults around them that are presenting as adults, that are role modeling in the best way possible for them as children. And children and young people are different in many different ways, in lots of different ways. So we have this idea that they're going to show up in uniform, and they're not. Well, I'm not showing up in no uniform. If I have to wear a uniform, I'm not going.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it. So it's important that for me, that I get to be me as what I need to be as a mother is me. I always say to my children, yeah, you might want me to be mom, because I'm quite a laid back mom. And my children love it, because they're like, we've got it easy at home. But then when I show up as Michelle, it's a completely different thing. But I need to be able to show up as Michelle in order for you to get the laid back mom, because Michelle's going to tell you about yourself.
Yep.
You've got to be okay with that.
Yes.
Balance.
And there has to be balance.
Yeah.
There's got to be balance. And so I say that to say, I think for me, as what I need as a parent, or what I think is really important for parents, is that they can show up as themselves, in their authentic self, as who they are.
Yeah. For me, I think I'll definitely say what you said, self-awareness. I think on the back of self-awareness, you have accountability. So I don't know who said it, but being able to say sorry to your kids, being aware of how you impact them and what you say and your behaviors, having open conversations. But also, like Malika mentioned, having a village, I think, is so important. Whether it's your best friend or your sibling, or even that one teacher in school that gets on with your kid and you think she's all right. Whether it's the neighbour who they get along with. I think it really does take a village. And it's important for our children to have other role models outside of parents. And even just having someone who can babysit, just the little things that matter, just showing your kids, there's other people around, so you have a good support system and everyone kind of has their role. I think that's important.
Thank you. Thank you for your words. Your time is precious. We're now going to open up the floor.
I thought it was really, really good what you were talking about. I'm not a parent, but I'm surrounded by lots of different parents. And my question was to all of you is, what advice would you give to a parent that's maybe struggling with responsibility or feeling overwhelmed right now?
You're not alone. There are loads of other parents out there that feel overwhelmed with what parenting is in 2026. I think this is where community has to kind of stand up and be seen. So where are we signposting you, and at what level are we signposting you? Is it a mental health issue? Is it because you're just struggling too much? I think the commodification of community is a massive problem. So having to pay for all of these extracurricular activities, where back in the day they used to be free, so you could take your child to karate for 3 hours and have that downtime. That doesn't exist anymore, because now you're having to pay. So I think, the first thing for me, that parent is, you're not alone. There are loads of people out there thinking like that. What's in your local area? Do you know what I mean? So it's for practitioners to be kind of well versed in what's out there as well, making sure that we're touching base with each other. So we've got, I'm in Birmingham, is that parent from Birmingham? What have we got down here for them? Do you know what I mean? If we're in Wolverhampton, what's up there? Do you know what I mean? So there needs to be like an open discord amongst ourselves about what is out there. But it's really to let everybody know that everybody's under the cosh right about now. Really, really are. It is a very turbulent time to be, get me, on planet Earth full stop. But as a parent, with what we're facing with, social media and all the other things that are out there, and to get educated as well. There's loads of things online. There's loads of things on Netflix. I watched a documentary called Swiped the other day, and me personally, no young person around me under the age of 14 is ever having a phone again. If I can help it. But only because of what? 2 pieces of information I learned out of a 3-episode documentary. Do you get what I mean? You're going to find people out there that are thinking like you. Do you get what I mean? Let's just start having those open and honest conversations online, and then you've also got to go and touch grass as well. So don't get embedded in the online world, but don't also take what's going on in real life as the be all and end all. It's about balance.
But what I do is I feel like I always have a bit of a reflective moment where I'd be grateful for the ways that I do and can show up as a mother, and just know that not every parent is perfect, and to give myself some grace. And as long as my kids are happy and they know that I'm there for them, some days that is literally just enough. So yeah, give yourself some grace.
Yeah, I would also say just acknowledge the great job that you're doing, and nobody gets it perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect parent, and what works for one parent doesn't necessarily mean it works for you. So if one of your friends is doing X, Y, Z and that makes them like really fulfilled as a mother, it doesn't mean that it's going to work for you as well. You don't have to do all of the things. Just find what works for you. Look after yourself in the way that you know works for you, and obviously reach out for support as well. It can be overwhelming to look for the support, but once you find it, just that baby steps, like reach out to a friend, ask a friend to come with you to like a play group if that feels overwhelming for you. Like speak to your sister, speak to the GP, find these community groups. There are always people out there who want to help and support other people, so it's about finding those people and like just helping yourself be helped. People don't know that you need the help unless you ask for it.
We don't realize that people around us can be as impactful as a lot of the local services. Where, for example, I had to say to my wife, and I've said to myself, I have a friend, or a lot of my friends are in very similar situations as myself. So when we're conversating, sometimes I might be holding it in, and then they will release what they're feeling, and I'm like, blood, do you know how that's, I was going through that last week. So I also had to encourage my wife to also speak to her circle. And at the time, she wasn't as close with, not say her circle, but she didn't have like her set circle, if that makes sense. So she had friends around her, but they were kind of like, I'm now a mom, times change. So she had to find that time to really just say, actually, I'm just going to be a friend and be in environments around my people. And that completely changed because I've noticed the happiness within her of just having that safe space where she can speak to people that are in similar situations as her.
I'm quite a spontaneous person, and I like to wander very naturally. And becoming a mom and a practitioner, it meant that I had to find balance in that, because there's a lot of structure needed. And in being a mom, you have to be quite organised. So being organised became a thing that I had to learn. And I'm starting to very much recognise that when we have holidays and I throw the structure out of the window and then we've got to get back into it, I'm like, Saturday night, you're back at school on Monday, everyone's going to bed on time. Because I know if I don't get that structure back in play, then we're just going to be being spontaneous and trying to get to school on time. And that just doesn't work. And I think because we want to be adults, I think it's important to have your own time and important to be an adult. But actually, what is as important is a structure, especially for children. And then a structure at work, and letting others know what your structure looks like. And the other thing that I've had to kind of really hone in on is I have a really massive network. So I know a lot of people and I engage with a lot of people. But what one of my friends said to me, she said, Michelle, if you've said something more than 3 times to more than 3 different people, you're looking attention, you're not looking for a solution. And what she meant by that was the more you're able to hone in on who am I going to with a specific issue and a specific challenge. All your friends don't have to be all your friends for everything, or colleagues don't have to be all your colleagues for everything. But actually, who are the certain people that you know that you can go to for a particular thing? Because if you narrow it in and you're able to go to a few, it means that you're going to come to a solution quicker because you got clarity quicker.
Yes.
And it's being able to find the clarity quicker that reduces the overwhelm.
Yeah.
Because you're dealing with the situations as they come and as they happen. But the more you talk about it, the longer you stay in it.
Yeah.
So many gems. And just what you said at the end there, Michelle, really resonated. I think all of us, you got a lot of amens and ums because for real, it's also recognizing when you are, because when you are in need of attention, that's another need as well.
Yeah.
The fact that you are, pushing and pushing, you're needing that attention, and maybe you're not looking for resolution.
Yeah.
That is it's so clear that even that in itself is a need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
And we
becomes
don't
clear.
know, how, for that particular time, I don't know the surrounding story, but it's just interesting to know that you've got a village that will hold you to account.
So the first one is around social wider determinants. So I want to hear about your thoughts on that in terms of community relationships, family, or because it impacts everybody.
Yeah. You know which one?
There's so many areas that need to be looked at. I think this is where parent power really comes into play. How are you taking your power as a parent to affect local authority policy and procedure and central government policy and procedure, especially within the Black community? We have got a history of not voting. We haven't unpacked why we don't vote. We haven't unpacked what it would look like if we were to vote. And therefore, when things are happening to us, that old moan, well, no, we've got to stop that. Do you know what I mean? It's about how we are educating ourselves in regards to how much power we have as people / parents. I was talking about the commodification of community. Those, I grew up in Birmingham, we had Oaklands, we had Muhammad Ali Centre, we had loads of different places that we could go to just be children. We don't have that anymore. In terms of safeguarding, it's a lot. So when the young lady's asking about an overwhelmed parent, of course you're going to be overwhelmed because you've got all of this to be dealing with. However, how do you reclaim power? What do you do in the moment? You get me? Where are you going and how are you educating yourself? Is there spaces for you to go and learn how to budget? How would budgeting impact your home life? What would your children benefit from you being able to budget? Those types of things are readily available, but if you don't know that they're there, you're not going to take it on. So I think from a practitioner perspective, but also as a mother perspective, you've got to when we are in charge of the minds of younger people that are here because of our actions, you were having fun and now 9 months later there's a child, you know what I mean? You have got to take the onus on yourself to pull yourself up, and that doesn't mean that it's all on you to find solutions, but you've got to walk through the door to find those solutions. You know what I mean? We're spending a lot of time on Instagram, TikTok, and also, it can do wonderful things for you. Are you searching the right things as well? Do you get what I mean? So for me, there's too much for us to unpack now, and I think everybody needs to hone into one that you're passionate about, and then we share information amongst each other. Do you get what I mean? I speak to my friends all the time about what I do as a 9 to 5 that informs how they then, parent. Do you get what I mean? Because I'm seeing children that are really affected by what it is when, that parent relationship breaks down. So we take nuggets from that, you get what I mean, and we implement that into our own parenting, and that's how we move forward, taking bits and bobs from different places, you get what I mean, and putting that inside of us, and then feeding that forward. So that would be my answer. How much power do you have as a parent? Are you recognizing that power, and what are you doing with that power?
Wow.
Obviously, you've spoken about policy-wide structures and impacting as a parent these structures. Within my home, I would make sure that I have those open conversations with my children, educate myself, and also make sure that they're aware of these, social determinants out there as well, because they can live in a little bubble. I live in Four Oaks. My kids, all they see is like privilege around them. I mean, they do see the gap between those who are on free school meals, for example, within the school, because obviously they have to have a certain amount of those children within the school as well. But it's about opening up the conversation with them, inviting them to reflect on their own privilege, You know, and the systems at play, like how can they actually look at what's around them and make improvements? What do they see on, you know, on the ground as children? You know, because we as adults don't know everything either. Like we should also be open to learning and feedback from the community, from our young people as well. And it starts in the home, like having those open conversations with our children to say that their experiences and their opinions are valid too. And then we can take it and then we can then advocate for them in these systems and structures.
I love the fact that you are talking about bringing it to the home, because this is all part of our young people becoming resilient and being social justice warriors outside of the home as well. I remember my son, when he was in secondary school, he noticed a friend of his couldn't play football because he didn't have football boots. And even though I wouldn't say we are, you know, well off at all, but what my son did, he said, "Mum, do you think we could afford just to buy 2 football boots? Because he loves football. So we can give one to my friend and then we can play football together."
Yeah.
Those mindsets, it starts in the home.
Yeah.
So what you're talking about there is so important because it then affects the wider social demographic, whatever the word you said before, menopause as well, it doesn't help. But so thank you for just shining a light on how we bring it into the home. Can you give this wonderful panel a massive round of applause?